RJ Lewis is probably the one guy on our big board, Dion, who most of us expected to go back to school. He hit the transfer portal and entered the draft to keep his options open. We were waiting on the deadline. There were massive offers for him to come back to college. He mentioned that he'd turned down significant amounts of money to stay in the NBA draft, but he was all in on his future. Big East Player of the Year. Understand that to a certain extent. His draft range is anywhere from late second round to undrafted. We'll see where that ends up. Checked in at number 72 in our consensus big board. Everybody had him 70 plus. Both you and I had him at 70. Greg and Cart had him at 71. Riley had him at 78. That being said, like, this guy was the Big East Player of the Year. He helped St. John's get a two seed, was their best player. So, what are the strengths of his game that are the selling points for RJ Lewis?
Uh, I'm not a fan of his jump shot. I think it's a funky release. I don't think he plays too much defense. He can create for himself though, which I do think is a selling point to NBA teams. And I do believe NBA teams are going to view the other aspects of his games like we can fix that. Was it the guy from Holes? I can fix that. I
Yep.
think there's a lot of NBA teams that do that, where there's, oh,
Yeah.
I can fix that. No, you cannot. And you really probably like you really can't. And I think RJ Lewis has a lot. Of the skill sets that the NBA doesn't feel like they can fix. And what he struggles is the stuff they feel like they can. And I think that's going to be his selling point. It also will be his downfall. But I think it's his selling point in the next month or so.
Yeah, he's tough. He's got prototypical NBA size for a wing. Good defender, relentless at attacking the basket.
Yeah.
All those things are going in his favor, but the weakness is, as you mentioned, jump shot is quite funky, not a great percentage. I do kind of wonder, like, if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, where his impact is, because he is not a shooter,
Yeah.
or his impact is offensively, and that can limit where you end up. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. What's the word you picked to describe him?
NIL, because that's what he should have went and got.
My word was limited because I do think his game is limited. Like there are things he does well and does really well. This guy won Big East Player of the Year and took St. John's back to a level, or led St. John's back to a level where they had not been. You know, we expected um, his name just escaping me right now, Kadari Richmond
Yeah.
and Davon Smith to be like the guys for St. John's. And it was pretty quick that both of them were like, yeah, no, RJ Lewis is the guy. And RJ Lewis was the guy for a lot of last year. And the way the year ended with Rick Pitino benching him that lost to Arkansas, I think has left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth that overshadows the good he did during the year. But it also like gave people a chance to harp on all the things he doesn't do well because there are some of those things he just doesn't do well and is limited by.
I also think it forced his hand to make this decision. I think if Patino plays him in that game, I think he's still at St. John's.
There's the whole internet conspiracy theory that he was concussed and that he got a concussion in the first round, and it would have been in like his second or third of the year,
Mm.
and um, they didn't like not that they didn't want to report it, but like he tried to hide it.
Did they report the first two?
He missed some time with a concussion, but there was a shot. I think it was Omaha they played in the first round.
I
He
think so,
took where
yeah.
he looked groggy and he airballed the free throw right after, and then he goes into that game and is shooting horrifically.
Mm.
So that is a little tough if that actually is the case. But even so, at his game in general, things he does really well. Some things he does not.
Yeah, and I do think I think he's respectfully, he's not an NBA guy. And I think I I don't I think there's NBA dudes and there aren't NBA dudes. And I say this all the time, you're gonna have 60 guys drafted, another 20 to 30 that got undrafted two-way contracts. There's what, 400 guys in the league? Listen,
Yep.
some people don't have to work out. I think RJ Lewis. if he's able to develop, can develop into an NBA guy. But I think much like his jump shot, his NBA career is going to be sporadic. Like he might play a year in the league, 2 years in the G League, another year in the league. Like I think it's going to be a very up and down process. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be a mental grind. I think he's tough enough to do it and see his dream through, which I have the utmost respect for, and I'm rooting for him. But
Mhm.
I think there's few players in the draft that have more of the deck stacked against them than RJ Lewis.
Yeah, I think that's fair. More likely to hit his floor or his ceiling in the NBA? It sounds like we're both more towards the floor than the ceiling.
I said floor. I think they're both extremely similar, to be honest with you, but I did say floor.
I said floor as well. If he is going to hit a ceiling, I think opportunity and team fit's going to matter a ton. So where'd be the best team for him to go?
I said the Blazers. I think RJ Lewis going to a team that plays basketball. And by basketball, I mean like runs free flowing sets, cuts to the basket, moves the ball a lot, plays what I like to call the beautiful game
Mhm.
isn't gonna work. But if RJ goes somewhere where everyone just runs ISO ball, it's a lot of pick and roll, get mismatches, get to the rack, I think RJ could make an impact this year. Now, is it an impact that results in wins and losses? Probably not, but it's an impact nonetheless.
I went with the Hornets because the Hornets' MO is to draft really good college players who have questionable NBA futures.
Yeah, that's the Michael Jordan.
Yeah, and there are a number of second round picks the last couple of years for Charlotte who have gotten some run, particularly like later in the year. And I think RJ Lewis checks that box. He would bring some defense that that team needs. They have a good amount of shooting, and so I think that would open the floor for him to attack a little bit more and use that slashing. And he fits the MO.
Yeah.
He fits the MO. Where do you see him in 5 years? There are a number of options we could pick from, stemming from all the way All NBA, All Star, if he's a starter in the league, bench guy in the G League or overseas, or just out of the league hosting a podcast. So which one did you pick for him?
I think it's going to be a combo of three. So the one I chose is overseas, but I genuinely believe 5 years from now he's going to have some G League stint. I think he'll still get NBA stints because he's too good of a scorer. But I think where he's going to make most of his money is overseas, and I think he's going to be one of the best players in Europe, one of the best players in China. But I think like because if you play in China, your contract ends in March. So I think like he could go over there, win a championship, and then come play the final 2 months in the NBA, right? Like I think he's going to have some combination of all of them. Um, I don't. The reason I struggle to see him carving out an NBA career is just more. I don't know what the role is per se. Um,
Yeah,
and I say this a lot. It, I don't know how much of an opportunity he's going to get to develop. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to is how much patience is the NBA going to have with you? And where he's being picked isn't an area where they're going to have a ton of patience.
yeah. I said overseas as well. Um, I think there will be a time where him and Rick Pitino make up because that kind of ended poorly. Rick Pitino coached in Greece for 2 years. I think maybe Rick uses some of those connections and RJ gets on pretty well with a Greek team and has a comfortable living.
I'll say this. If you told me I could be an end of the bench NBA guy that also has to play like for the South Fall G League team, or I
The
can
Sioux
go
Falls, yeah.
Sioux Fall, is that how they say
Sioux
that?
Falls, yeah.
So like half that word just is silent.
Yep.
All right. Well, whoever came up with that, like, I would love to have a conversation because there's 5 letters in that word and you only pronounce two of them. But anyway, if you told me I had to choose between that or I could go play for Barcelona, the way Jabari Parker is, couldn't be an easier decision.
Yeah.
I will be in Barcelona for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that Mediterranean weather, you take that all day. All right. Well, what is he most likely to do? We gave all of our top 80 guys a yearbook superlative. So what is RJ Lewis most likely to do in this draft class?
Check to see if he has college eligibility in July.
This goes in very well with mine. Do you remember LeGerald Vick?
I don't.
Played for Kansas like the late 2010s.
Oh yeah. I do
Yeah.
remember.
He's most likely to pull LeGerald Vick. Now, what is a LeGerald Vick, you might ask? LeGerald Vick, after his junior season, on what day was this? On April 6th, announced he was going to forego his senior season to play professionally. 2018 NBA draft comes on June 21st. He does not get drafted. June 29th comes around, and Kansas releases a press release saying that LeGerald Vick is back for his senior season. 8 days after the draft, somehow didn't lose his eligibility, somehow was able to come back, and boom, LeGerald Vick was right back. Was a major contributor for Kansas in his senior season for a very, very good Kansas team.
If LeBaron Philon can do what he did, RJ Lewis should be able to do that too.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. What is we've been questionable about like what his NBA future looks like, but best case scenario for RJ Lewis, what is that? What is the best case player comp for RJ Lewis?
Before I say this, I'm prefacing this is who he was in the NBA. Not what we thought he was in high school, not what we thought he was at Duke, not what we wanted him to be in the NBA. This is who he was in the NBA. Cam Reddish.
Okay, all right. I went a little bit better and a little bit further back. I went Quincy Pondexter,
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
just a big long wing. Pondexter developed the 3 point shot, but defense first, limited offensive game.
He ended up playing what, like 10 or 12 years too,
He was in
right?
the league for he was a role bounced around role player, but was in the league for a good bit. What about worst case?
Now this is a pool. A lot of people say I don't know ball. Dion doesn't do this. No research. Ooh, Tyler Honeycutt.
Ooh, expand please.
Good college career. Kind of like a flash in the pan. Like, oh, he came out of nowhere. Capitalized on it. Tyler did capitalize on it by going to the draft. Um, got drafted and then just flamed out. I think RJ Lewis is capitalizing on a lot of different variety of stuff here, but a phenomenal year. I think he's getting ready to capitalize on pretty much everybody like withdrawing their name and basically making him go from like the 90th ranked prospect to like very realistically a second round pick. And he's capitalizing on a lot, but I think ultimately he's going to flame out.
I went with Chandler Hutchinson.
Okay.
Now, Hutchinson, at the start of his career, he got some opportunities with Chicago because he was a first round pick, but was out of the league before his rookie deal was done and had played on four different teams. Excuse me, no, three different teams. Played on three different teams before he was out of the league in 4 years. Just bounced around and then was out of the league really quickly because the shot just limited him and he didn't do enough other stuff to really stick in the league. And that's RJ Lewis's deal to me. He may not get the opportunity that Hutchinson did, but the opportunities he gets, he just doesn't do enough to differentiate himself from some other guys.
I like that. I don't think he plays. Honeycutt, I want to say played a year or two at most.
I like the Honeycutt shout better.
Yeah, I don't think RJ makes it 5 years in the league
No,
the way Hutchinson did.
no.